Welcome to Fight City Gym Talk. I'm here with Luke. Luke, sorry man, I don't even remember your last name.
Sanders, Luke Sanders.
I was going to guess Sanders, but so we call him Colonel Sanders. Just kidding. So let me tell you a little bit about Luke. Luke has lost 90 pounds, and tell me the time frame you lost the 90 pounds in.
I'd say it was around, it took a few years, but my biggest success would be for about like 4 to 5 months.
4 to 5 months, okay. Mm-hmm. So how much did you weigh at your biggest?
At my biggest, I weighed 300 pounds.
300 pounds.
It's terrible.
And what do you weigh right now?
Right now, I weigh 210.
210, that 90 pounds, easy. So the fact of the matter is he's lost 90 pounds. And so on this interview, I'm going to always talk about spiritual, mental, physical, financial. Spiritual, mental, physical, financial. Of course, with Luke here, having lost 90 pounds, I obviously want to talk to him about how the heck did you do it? Because if you saw my Rod interview, his goal is to lose 150 pounds. Here's the thing. I don't claim to be a dietitian. This is me. If you want to know my workout or my diet plan when I've lost weight for fights and stuff like that, it's really simple. Work harder, eat less. And people always want diet advice. I'm like, hey, whatever you're eating, eat less of it. And however much work you're putting in, do more of it. And it's always worked for me. It's kind of been my diet, but once again, I'm not a dietitian. So Luke, back to you. What are some things that you did that seemed to work that you would want to pass on to other people versus my like, hey, quit whining about it, work harder, eat less? What are some things that worked for you that you think other people could benefit from hearing?
Well, I think, first of all, make sure you have someone that can sort of help you along the way. I think that was the real big difference in losing weight in a healthy way versus just like not eating a lot and just running around, not really knowing what you're doing, getting really dehydrated, getting really dizzy. I've definitely been there. I lost like the first maybe like 30, 40 that way.
Okay.
But it wasn't like very sustainable. You know, you go back to binge eating, you go back to like eating what you want, doing what you want.
So when you say someone to help you, what are you talking about? Are you talking about like a dietitian, a fitness coach, life coach? What kind of person are you talking about here?
Really just a coach in general was like one of the big motivators, but the biggest motivator for me was I looked at it as like, this was something I'd wanted to do. This was a big change in my life, and this was something I felt like would help me grow more like in a spiritual sense. Like I felt like I would be a lot closer to understanding things and being able to know what it is that I want to do with my life once I had gotten some of these other things out of the way. For example, like feeling good about yourself, feeling okay with the body that you got, feeling okay with who you are as a person. And a lot of that is internal, but I think when you look in the mirror and you're like, satisfied with what you've done and who you are, I think that's a big part in being able to change and being able to do those things.
Here's the thing. I've never lost that much weight. I have been as big as 250, and that was before I started fighting. And I remember when I went from 250 and then I ended up taking my first fight at 185. I was a completely different guy. And I remember little things, right? Like waking up in the morning wasn't nearly as hard. The big thing that I worked outside in the summer, I wasn't chafing as much. And for those you don't know, chafing, your legs are like you're starting a fire between your legs every time you go for a walk. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how great it was to not have to worry about that anymore. My legs got skinnier, and guess what? I wasn't starting a fire everywhere I was going. So it's little things, right? But the fact of the matter is,
smell nicer too.
Yeah, people always, I think the number one reason for wanting to lose weight is like image, right? Look good, feel good.
Totally.
But there's way more than just looking good and feeling good, because like what you don't realize is like there's so many other perks and benefits, and I think I can see it more from like when I am in good health. I can look at other people who aren't in good health, and I can see they're making a lot of rash kind of bad decisions. And it kind of trickles into every aspect of their life. Their relationships seem to fall apart. Their finances seem to fall apart. They have no spiritual direction, and they're not mentally strong either.
Yeah.
And so, to me, I think, and the reason I wanted Luke on is because we've had a lot of good conversations about this stuff, and I was like, oh, we should have had that on podcast. We should have had that on podcast too. And so, having Luke on, I really want to kind of get the ball rolling into these great conversations. And talk about his physical strength and what he's been able to do. Okay, so you talked about a life coach, or not a life coach, just a coach in general.
It was really, just some guy I saw on Instagram that I was like, wow, he's really fit. Wow, he looks really good. This guy's no BS. Like, this is kind of what I want to be. And like, more than anything, it just felt right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was one of these things that I was like, I don't know what it is, but like when you see someone and you know like instantly that you can click with them, it was one of those things. So I looked and I saw the guy on the Instagram and saw that he was doing online coaching, and I was like, and it just felt right. And I went with it and I did not look back.
Right.
I was also a plumber at the time too, so I think that like played a really big part of it. It did make days a lot tougher. I'm not gonna lie, like there were a lot of days where you wanted to give up, or where you didn't want to go to the gym, or you didn't want to do all that because you worked so hard already. But I mean, it's just, you got to be willing to make sacrifices and go through those sorts of things in order to better yourself, and not just yourself, but help other people as well who have been in that same, or who are in that boat right now.
Like I say, I don't think I'm a good weight loss coach. I'm very like hard nosed, but a lot of times when I've coached people to, get on the horse, start losing that weight, I kind of just hit it straight on. I tell a lot of people like, hey, look, if you're not hungry all the time, you're probably not losing weight. If you're not tired all the time, grumpy all the time, like the fact of the matter is losing weight is hard. And the thing that I always kind of try to tell people is, rather than jumping on a gimmick and saying, hey, just do this and watch, it's easy and the weight will fall off. I actually can't stand that. It's really a big kind of a pet peeve of mine. I'm more of like, no, hit it straight on. Don't try to dance around it.
There's no shortcuts to success.
You have to just, and back to my philosophy of losing weight, really take in less and put out more.
Yep.
Take in less food, burn out more carbs. Calories, sugars, all that kind of stuff. Bring everything to a bare minimum and increase what you're doing. So with that being said, like I say, I'm very hard-nosed about this when I've helped people. And I think maybe it rubs some people the wrong way. Some people want me to sit and babysit them and give them a lot of feel-good advice, like, oh, don't sweat it, you'll do better next time. But I have a hard time getting into that because when I've lost weight, it's been nothing but just hard-nosed tough. So mental things. What are some things mentally you did to help fight through these, what I think is just no bones about it, hard times?
Through the days, I mean, it was just, I just wanted it really badly. A lot of times, like, music actually helped me get through the day. Really staying connected with, so I was in sobriety. I'm still in sobriety, but like I would go to AA meetings and things like that, and go like help people and talk to people. And like, as I started to notice, like, people were like listening to me, people were like treating me differently, I was like, man, like, you've got to do this stuff, man. Like, you've got to keep pushing. It's not just about you. Like, this is also like something that can show other people that like you can come out of addiction, you can come out of debt, you can come out of a lot of things. So it was just, and it's a constant battle every day in your head. And sure, you're gonna have your days, where, because no one's like super perfect, but you're gonna have your days where you're like, man, like, I just want to take it easy, I just want to take it easy. And sometimes it's what you need, but taking it easy for me sometimes can mean more like, okay, so I didn't have work today, but I'm going to go lift the weights and I'm going to go do the cardio. Now, maybe I'm not going to go, do 30 minutes on the Stairmaster. Instead, I'm just going to do like an incline and do 30 minutes there, things like that. Also, Instagram posts where it was like, I can do it, you can do it too. Finding motivational quotes, things to like keep you pushing forward, listening to people's experiences and like learning and growing and understanding that like it's a journey, guys. It's not just like this quick little thing or this like, just this monumental like hardcore, but it's a journey of like growth and self-realization and understanding things. And that's how I push through.
So real quick, how long have you been on this journey? I think you already said, but I want to
Just the weight loss in general. Well, I'd say I started about right before the pandemic, actually. Right around the time it was a week before the gyms closed, and that was when I had started my like program with my coach and started going to the gym and doing all that, and then the gym shut down.
Yeah.
And so all I did was I luckily was in a position where like I could go use the gym at my work, and I just had the first week of workouts, and I just stuck with that for like a good month and a half.
Right.
I'd say until the gyms did open back up. And I didn't have to. I mean, I could have just said, I'll just pick it up later. I'll do it. And I was like, no, dude, this is an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
This is an opportunity to like take what you got and push past that. And now you've like increased your time with this coach to guide you even more so, and you got it for free. Like, you'd be stupid to not do it,
Yeah.
I convinced myself every day, even if maybe that was like a little bit much, or that was, people were like, oh man, like that's kind of crazy, like COVID's happening. Like when it first hit, everybody was, mortified. But I mean, I just was like, no dude, like I'm doing this. Like I've made my mind up, I've decided, and I'm willing to go to any effort or any length. I'm willing to go to whatever it takes. If I got to wake up at 5 in the morning, if I got to wake up at 4 in the morning, if I got to stay out till 9:30, 10 o'clock, even though I got to be up in the morning to go to work to be a plumber, It was just that willingness and determination.
And I've caught them. We do here at the gym, we have 24-hour access. So my members can come in whenever they want. And I catch Luke here all the time, doing his own thing. Practicing jujitsus with his dummy. Like he's here all the time. So like, I totally know and agree with what he's saying. Is he's just always grinding through this, and I asked him like how long. So he's been on this journey for a couple of years, and when I work with people trying to lose weight, the hardest thing is keeping them on the path, right? So like if someone comes in, they lose 30 pounds, and 30 pounds is no joke. Like it's hard.
That's a big deal. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, I lost 24 pounds to get ready for a fight a couple months back, and that was hard. And honestly, I've already kind of fallen off the wagon. And then the other thing is I just had what I think, cross my fingers, I don't know, fighters retire all the time, but I think it was my last fight like 2 weeks ago. I lost, I got knocked down in the first round. Whatever, things happen.
Is what it is.
It was an MMA fight. Reggie Pena, great fight. It was, we don't have to talk about the fight much, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that was my last fight. At least I'm not looking for any fights. Promoters, if there's any out there, you want to pay me 10 grand to show up, fight somebody, I probably will. But I'm not looking for fights, is really all I'm getting at. The scary thing is, for me, I'm not fighting anymore. So why am I going to lose weight? So that's something that I'm personally struggling with right now. I've always stayed in shape because of fighting, and now I'm kind of like turning over this new chapter where it's like, oh, I've always been in shape because of fighting, and that may not exist anymore. So
what am I going to do?
What am I doing with myself? So really what I wanted to point out with Luke is he's been on the path for 2 years. He's lost the weight. I see a lot of people, myself included, lose weight for a fight, put the weight back on. Lose weight for another fight, put the weight back on. And so that's why I'm genuinely interested, like, how do we stay on that path? I've been spitballing ideas in my head. I really love fishing, so I was like, maybe I need to, when I go fishing, not just pull up to a lake and sit on a lawn chair, but go to lakes where I have to actually like hike to the lake. And that's something where it's like, okay, so now on the weekends, I don't just binge eat and sit on the sit and watch television. I'm actually doing something. So anyway, so I think maybe you kind of already touched on it, but like, what what do you think is a key to success for long-term?
Long-term weight loss, like keeping the weight
Yeah.
off, not going back into the yo-yo dieting and
And
all
I
these sorts
also,
of things.
sorry to cut you off, but I've also always told people like maintaining is far easier than losing. I always say weight loss is kind of two stages, right? Losing, which is hard.
Totally.
You're gonna always be grumpy, tired, and hungry. That sucks. Maintaining is not nearly as hard, but you do have to have some healthy habits. Because you can bring in more sugars, more carbs, more fats, because you're not trying to lose, but in order to maintain, we have to be working out.
Right.
So any advice on that?
Well, it boils down to a lifestyle change too. Because once I was free, I guess we'll call it, from like having to go to the gym and having to do these things, like I don't really have any I don't have to go to the gym. I don't have to lift the weights. I don't have to eat the chicken and broccoli anymore. Why do you keep doing it? It's just I'm happier this way.
Yeah.
I'm healthier this way. Like the second I go back into like isolating and like just sitting on the couch and eating, a whole bag of Doritos and like watching UFC or watching, movies or cartoons or whatever you watch, that's when I become distant and that's when I become lonely and that's when you go into this like really dark place in your life, and for me that can mean death. That can mean going back into drugs. That can mean like losing everything and being homeless. I mean, I'm lucky to be in the position I'm in. And I realized after I was done, it was like, we're not done here. That's the thing is you got to understand, like, when you commit to doing this isn't just like, this shouldn't be like a 3-month thing that you do. Like, this should be a lifelong commitment.
Right.
Much like you would with like anything major in your life. Like if you wanted to be a more spiritual person, you wouldn't just, for 2 months be like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fast and like I'm going to, pray around a bunch of candles and go to church on Sunday for a little bit. And then I'm going to go back to just doing whatever I want. Like, no, this has to be like a consistent thing. And it's about those healthy habits, like you're saying, like, choosing to, okay, maybe we'll go for like a 2-3 mile hike and then fish, and for lunch, maybe I don't eat like, a peanut butter sandwich and a whole bag of Doritos. Maybe I eat like a tuna salad and like some water versus like a Coke, or even just doing Diet Coke over Coke. Looking for sugar-free options. Just healthy living in general is an overall better way to really like achieve the success you want and get the change that you need. Because people think that it's just like you lose the weight, you look good, and you're like, oh, all my dreams have come true. No, that's not how this works. This is a forever thing, because a lot of people have these habits, right up here in their brain. And I mean, that's just how it goes. If you trickle off the path and you go back to that, like, you're just going to lose everything you just worked for. It's like, I just made $10,000 or whatever, and now I'm not going to go back to work. I think I'm good for life. No, you're going to always need money. You're going to always need fitness. And it will push you and it will get you through so much. I've had hard days, hard nights, where like, it's like, nothing's clicking, like, oh man, my girlfriend doesn't like me, like my friends aren't hitting me up, like bad day at work, I got my butt kicked at the gym, like, man, this is just not it for me. But I go back to the gym and then I lift some weights maybe, or I go hit the bag, or I do some jiu-jitsu or whatever, and I leave and I'm so much happier and I feel so much better, about what I did, today. I'm like, you know what? It really wasn't that bad of a day. Like, you know what? This is like, I'm okay. You know what I mean? I'm still healthy. I'm still happy. Like, I can keep pushing forward,
You said something I really liked. You said, you always need fitness.
Always.
And here's the thing that I want this channel to kind of always revolve around is spiritual fitness, mental fitness, spiritual, mental, physical, and financial fitness. And they all kind of come full circle. Now, we're bringing Luke on to talk about physical strength. And to talk about physical strength, one of my definitions of physical strength is, do you have this strength in who you are as a person to achieve all your goals? Can you wake up early enough? Can you work long enough, hard enough days? Can you put together a day in, day out, if it needs to be 7 days a week, 7 days a week, but can you do this at a pace that if you want to become a doctor, you can do all the school and work the job to pay for the school to become a doctor, right? So like, to me, physical strength is like whatever your goals are, do you have the physical strength? And a lot of people think like, oh, it's just how much you can bench press. Sure, but who cares? Literally, like I don't care how much you bench press. And I have to tell fighters that all the time. Like, it doesn't matter how much you bench. So when I'm talking about physical strength, it's like how much can your body put out, day in, day out, day in, day out. So with that being said, I kind of wanted to have Luke on, talk about his physical strength. And one thing that Luke did that in one of my classes that was really interesting, we did a boxing class, we had a conditioning workout at the end. I told everybody, hey, here's an obstacle course. You're going to run around these bags. You're going to run over this. You're going to run under that. You're going to run around this. And it probably took 30 to 40 seconds to get through the obstacle course. And what I do is I have everybody just run the laps. And in my mind, I'm watching and I'm kind of seeing like, who's the fastest? Turns out he was, in a class of about 8 or 9 people. Now, what was the class consisting of? It had other people who were fighting or wanted to fight. It had young teenage kids. It had, I think, a couple girls in it. So at the end of the day, there's kind of all walks of life in this class. And it turned out Luke was the fastest. So what I do once I figure out who I think is probably the fastest in the class, I put them at the front and I say, if he laps you and tags you, you got to go do burpees. Well, Luke got everybody. And it kind of blew my mind. I'm like, dude, this guy used to be 300 pounds, and now he's running through my class tagging everybody else out. This honestly shouldn't be happening. The teenage kids or some of my fighters, like, there's no way Luke should have caught up to these people. No way Luke should have tagged these people out, but he did. And so to just brag about Luke for a second, physically fit, strong guy, absolutely. And you know what? I don't care how much he bench presses. I don't even care how much he squats or deadlifts. But when I see him running through class after class after class, like it's no big deal, and then I hope, and we're going to get into this in a second, I hope he's just setting goals and tackling goals in the other aspects of life. So the aspects we talk about, spiritual, mental, physical, and financial. So I want to kind of briefly touch on the other things. Some people I want to bring on and maybe just kind of focus on one, and then other people I'm going to kind of focus on the other. But the fact of the matter is they all tie together, right? It's hard to be financially established if you're physically a wreck, as far as you can't get out of bed on time, you can't get to work on time. When you get to work, you're groggy, you're sleepy.
You don't perform.
You don't perform. When the boss wants to promote somebody, who's he going to promote? The guy showing up late, taking naps during work, and then also excuses to go home early? Or is he going to promote the guy that early, not just on time, but early, getting not just his work done, but helping other people get work done? And then all of a sudden the boss is now looking like, we need to fill this position, this promotion, who are we going to do, who are we going to pick? And so in my mind, I see like they all tie together. A lot of people don't see the spiritual one. How does spiritual health tie into this? And let me define spiritual health for a second. Spiritual health is basically, and I have it written down on my phone, we're using my phone as a camera, so I can't check into it, but spiritual health is basically having a moral compass for no other reason than you believe that there's a greater good in the universe that needs to have an order to it. So what I'm getting at is, in your spiritual being, is there's some sort of moral compass that says, you know what, these activities are going to drag me down. These activities are going to lift me up. Once you have a good spiritual compass, now I would like to say, because there is a creator or a God or someone that motivates that compass, I'd like to say that God ends up being kind of the guide of your compass, and you start making decisions, and this is for all of us, we are making these day-to-day decisions based on the fact that, like, hey, yeah, I do want to please my God, look well in the eyes of my Creator, and kind of do His work even.
Thy will be done.
Yeah, like His will be done. So here's the thing. I know there's plenty of atheists and agnostics out there that are going to be looking like, oh, spiritual, there's no necessity for spiritual well-being. But I don't know. I personally, I see people that have spiritual direction as a compass in their life to help them stay on track with goals and help them achieve and accomplish more. Luke's a very spiritual person, so I also want to talk on this as well. Luke, what are some things that you've done to help you spiritually? And we can talk about religion, religious beliefs as well, but spiritually, what are some things that you think have really helped you on your journey?
Well, a lot of that started with like getting sober was a big one, because they tell you in AA the only way you're going to do this is if you have a connection to a higher power. It doesn't have to be like...
I'm cold. I got to put a hoodie on. You
Okay.
cold? You...
Oh, no, I'm good.
You just keep talking.
It doesn't have to be like, you know, anything that fits any specific thing. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can even just be the mountains. As long as you can admit that something is greater than yourself, kind of thing, you know, because your ego ties into a lot of that. So basically I just, every day I would pray, even though I didn't necessarily know what I was praying to, but I was like, look, universe, whatever, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like, I've tried it my way. I tried to do things how I wanted it, and I don't want to do that anymore because all I do is mess it up. You know, I was out of control. I was getting DUIs.
Sorry, I was freezing. I hope hope my sound's still working, and we'll let you go. Keep going.
I was getting DUIs and ending up in treatment centers and all that. And then I found AA, and I was like, man, I'm just going to give this up to God, the universe, whatever, you know, my higher power. And I just trusted in it completely. And I did everything I could to like build that connection sort of. So that includes like praying, that includes like helping people, like doing the right thing, admitting when you're wrong, making things right, keeping your house in order, you know, maybe like, so I may have like ripped someone off in the past, but I'm going to go up to them and be like, hey man, like, you know, I'm really sorry about what I did, you know, and you know, this is where I did, you know, wrong. Like, okay, I ripped you off. Like, it was selfish and I wish I could have done things different. Like, what can I do to make that right to you? You know, and that was a big part for me, is like feeling like people, even some people were just like, man, I don't know, you're crazy, and just like pushed me away. And other people were like, man, this is a big deal, especially with just like my family and stuff. But that really started to push me. And then I started to like build this trust with this thing I couldn't see, this thing I couldn't touch, this thing I couldn't feel, but I knew was real. You know, I was like, I don't know, you know, much, but I've seen all these good things start to happen. You know?
I want to talk about that. I think that's fascinating. You said it was a thing you couldn't see, smell, touch, hear. So he has no evidence.
No evidence at all, other than like my life is going in a positive direction ever since I let go and I let something else steer it, and I tried to do good things by like making things right, praying, admitting when I'm wrong, and trying not to be like, making sure I'm not trying to control everybody or control everything around me, and letting things flow and be as they should be, instead of being like, oh, it has to be this way, it has to be my way, this is it, one, you know, my way or the highway. It was like, and I let it go, and things were clicking, and I started to build that trust, you know, and I started to like, things would happen. Like I would have these like thoughts or like feelings, like, hey man, you should really go do this. Like, this is something that you should really go do. And like, I'd be like, wow, okay. Like, and I just went with it. You know what I mean? It was like, that's how I met my coach. Like, that's why I lost the weight. That's why I joined Fight City. That's why I'm like training every day, trying to do MMA. That's why I'm still sober. That's why I have the truck outside that I have, is because I just went with it.
Right.
I didn't know what I was getting into, and it could have been disastrous and scary, and it was scary, and there was a lot of anxiety and fear and all that, and it was tough, and there were days I wanted to give up, but I mean, I just trusted in it, and I believed in it so much, and I saw how much that, like, really was making my life better, you know? So
I want to talk about this real quick. So you didn't, were you ever atheist or maybe agnostic, didn't care?
there was a brief period of my life where I was atheist, and then I was originally Christian my whole life, and then I went atheist for a little bit because I was very mad at the world, and then I couldn't really deny, I felt like, that there was something out there, even if it was just whatever, aliens, the universe, some greater energy, whatever. I couldn't really deny that, but I didn't really understand it, and I didn't really care to try to understand it. I was more worried about, like, I was more concerned with myself and, like, doing whatever I wanted to do and just, like, pleasing myself, and that was, like, about it, you know. And then I, like, landed, you know, in rock bottom, and rock bottom sucks, guys. It's not fun. So, and I climbed out, luckily, through spirituality.
You say you hit rock bottom. We know that you were 300 pounds.
Yep.
You mentioned AA. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to.
I'd love to talk about it. I got permission. I can talk about AA. My AA people said it's okay. So.
Okay. So we talked about 300 pounds. We talked about AA. Was there any other thing that you would say was that you were involved in life that you would consider like, that's another reason I was rock bottom?
That I was rock bottom?
I'm saying, like, was there maybe drugs or?
Oh, drugs for sure. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
That's
drugs and.
And we don't have to get too deep into it, but I just kind of want the people to understand, like
yeah.
When you say rock bottom, like we know you were heavy, alcoholic, and now we got drugs. Is there anything else you want to stack on top of that?
I was very, very, very broke. I was very, very,
broke?
very, very broke. I mean, like, just, we're talking like, maybe, some days I would have to, like, steal from work to eat broke. Like, I was the oyster guy.
Still in the ketchup packs of the refrigerator.
I mean, yeah, like, you know, like, you would have to, man, like, I mean, I was lucky I was at a restaurant, honestly.
Oh,
that's
I see what
just
you're saying,
God
yeah.
looking out for me, being like, hey, man, I know you're not going to have the money for food because you're spending it all on booze, but here you go. Like, you can cook yourself up a cheeseburger, you know what I mean? And you don't think about those things until later on, but yeah, that's where I got lucky. And I was stealing from my work, and some of them knew it, some of them didn't. I mean, you know, a lot of people just kind of like looked the other way and were like, damn, that's rough, you know?
Yeah.
And didn't really know what to say.
Yeah. We're just going to assume that he's already talked
made all that right. No, we've done all that. We've done all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we won't mention the restaurant he was working for. So, and this is what's so fascinating about this story, is it's hard to deny where your rock bottom whatever we want to call it. You were there, man. And honestly, I've never been in that. I've been in some rough situations. I've been broke. I've had some bad things happen. But like, wow, like that's incredible. Okay, so my question is, when it came to gaining spirituality, so like, as far as we've gone through this path of, you've hit rock bottom, you were atheist, and then you get a spiritual awakening. Now, was it AA that promoted that? Was it something else?
1,000,000,000%. So, like, the biggest moment, this was when, all right, so my buddy had been, this is really, really, all right, just for the record, I was a degenerate, man. Like, I wasn't like the greatest human, but this is what we were doing. So my buddy and I would drink a lot, and he had found these girls on Tinder, and they were like escorts, meaning they would like have sex for money, and they were really hot, and a lot of bad things happened, a lot of wild times. So he ended up in a bad spot and ended up getting arrested and all that. And he had to go to AA. Mm-hmm. He was the one that had to go to AA. I didn't have a problem. I was fine. I was just drinking a fifth of whiskey every night, and it was normal. And so I was like, oh, I'll go with him to like support him, because I'd been in programs and treatment centers and things like that before this. And I was like, I know how to like wing it. I know how to get by. I know how to like help this guy. You know, that was what my intention was.
Right.
It wasn't to get sober. It wasn't to get any of that. And I mean, like, man, my whole life was just like, it was just like noise. That's all it felt like, was just a lot of noise and a lot of chaos and a lot of just like uncomfortableness, and it wouldn't stop. And I mean, man, like, I wanted to die. It was really bad. And I walked into that room, and this random guy goes up to the podium, and he shares about his experience getting sober from heroin. And in that brief moment that he talked, everything vanished. Like, it was just like this moment of clarity that just like, and calm and just like serenity, I would call it. And then he got off the podium, and it all just came rushing back in, and I was like, okay, I don't know what just happened, because like, I don't know where my head is anyways, but whatever just happened, I need that all the time. I don't care how I gotta get it. I don't care what I gotta do. And I would watch these people talk, and I was like, man, these guys got something figured out. Like, they're part of a cult, or they're part of some of this or that, but all they really had was spirituality and like a new lifestyle. And I wanted it, and so I chased it, and I got it.
That's so cool. Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss of words. Like, in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking, in religious terms, you felt the Spirit.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what I would call that. Yeah.
He felt the Spirit. And
Same
so
thing.
if we go back to the original topic, spiritual strength will help you with mental strength, will help you with physical strength,
Totally.
will help you with financial strength.
Yeah.
And Luke and I had a great conversation yesterday. And like I say, I kind of wish we would have had that conversation on this interview. But like, the fact of the matter is, we talked about how you can't really help anybody by giving them anything. And that's one of my core beliefs. I don't feel like I can give anybody anything to really help them. Quick example. And I'm not saying I won't give anybody anything because I'm just like, hey, no, this is what I believe, and I can't give you nothing to help you ever. But for instance, if a guy is got a can of gas in his hands and he's walking down the street, and I pull over and I say, hey, you out of gas, you need a lift, you need some money for some gas, I would be more than willing to help a guy get to a gas station, put gas in the can, and take him back to his car. But without lifestyle changes, what are the odds that within 6 months that guy's walking down the street again trying to get a can of gas?
Exactly.
If he doesn't make any lifestyle changes. Yeah. And so that's just a quick little example of why I feel like, sure, help people when they're in need, but also giving people knowledge and motivation, I think personally, are the two best ways you could ever help anybody. Knowledge and motivation. And it sounds like AA did that for you a lot.
And yeah, the people there too, like a lot of the people there were willing to like, you know, I was out of place and disoriented and just like, I didn't know what I was doing, and just people would just come up to me and be like, hey man, you want to just go get a coffee and just like talk about life?
Let me ask you this. When you were rock bottom,
yeah,
paying girls on Tinder for fun,
I mean, like, I didn't, you know, yeah.
Whatever.
Doing my nefarious activities, yeah.
Okay. If someone would have came up to you and said, Luke, it looks like you're having a hard time. Can I give you $1,000?
I mean, I'd taken the money for sure.
And what would you have done with it?
I'd have just spent it on booze and women and probably a lot of bad things and ended up in a bad spot.
So would the $1,000 help you?
No, not at all.
And that goes back to my point. Look, I've been helped plenty of times by a lot of people who were very generous, and I truly, really deeply appreciate the help that they offered me in my time of need. A lot of people helped me build this gym. To everybody that helped me build this gym, thank you so much. A lot of people, my dad especially, and my mom and dad have helped me financially get through some trying times as the gym was struggling. We didn't have a lot of members, stuff like that. So it's like, I've been helped in so many ways. So I don't want to say that helping people never helps anybody. But I will say, I feel the best way we can help people is to teach them and motivate them, and teach them what, you know, the ways of the world. Teach them like, hey, if you want to get your life in order, here are some steps.
Yep.
And a lot of a big reason I wanted Luke on this is tell me a little bit about your personal long-term kind of career goals.
So right now, I'm working at a treatment center. I help at-risk youth and things like that. And so it's making me good money, but it's not like to where I can like get a house or like, you know, pay off my loans or like do this and that. So what I want to do is I want to get my substance use disorder certificate so I can get my foot in the door and become like a therapist, a clinical therapist. And it's a 2-year degree, and you can get it at community college, and it's a lot cheaper, and you can get your foot in the door to move you up faster kind of thing, so you can jump in there.
Right. So if we go based on what I said, you can't really give anybody anything to help them except for knowledge and motivation, and that's basically what Luke wants to do with his life, is just give people this knowledge like, hey, you don't have to live this way. Hey, here's a better way of living. Here are some better choices that could be made. And then that's fine. Knowledge is great, but if you don't have the motivation to do anything about that knowledge, you're still stuck.
Exactly.
And so then, and you mentioned when you were going to AA, sometimes people just say, hey, you want to go get a bite to eat and talk.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, now here are people reaching out to Luke, and little by little, line upon line, precept upon precept, little by little, Luke starts getting lifted out of this rock bottom of a lifestyle to, right now I'm going to ask you just a few questions. Do you live on your own, or are you sharing an apartment, paying rent? What are you going on with there?
Right now, I'm just renting a room because it's cheaper. But yeah.
Absolutely, you know, if that's the cheapest, most effective way to do it, that's the way we do it. Mm-hmm. So, the other thing I may want to ask, if they're too personal questions, whatever, we'll pass them. But like, are you reliant on handouts at all?
No.
That's what I wanted to say.
0%.
So a guy goes from rock bottom with addictions and also being overweight to now being what I would consider self-reliant. If you're not living on handouts,
no.
You earn your own money and you spend your own money. And now we're looking to take that money and devote it to certificates to where you can now make more money and do what? Help more people. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I really wanted Luke on this podcast with us today, is the fact that like he's kind of been there, he's done that, and I really love the direction I see him going in his life. So with that being said, Luke, I mean, I'm crazy impressed with everything you've done, where you've come from, and where you're going. With nothing else, like, is there anything else you want to tell these people? Stories, motivations, things that you feel like the world needs to hear before we cap this off?
Pretty much just, know that like you can do this, whatever it is, whatever you need to accomplish, whatever you feel like you can't do, you can do it, and you can continue to do it, and you can get up and you can make those changes in life. Can get better, but just take it one day at a time. Keep it simple, you know what I mean? And above all, like, be willing to go through whatever you got to go through, however bad it is. Know that there will be good times, and know that you can and will get through it. If I got through it, you can get through it too.
Let me ask you this. Was it worth it? And when I say worth it, before you ask that question, you could still be on the streets, alcoholic, and I see the benefit of that. Like I own a business, I have kids. There's a lot of stress in a guy's life when he starts getting all of his ducks in a row. And sometimes I think like, man, maybe I should just back it off and relax. You know what I mean? But is it worth it? Like, would you rather be there, or would you rather be where you're currently at?
I do have those days where I'm like, man, I wish it was just, I wish I could just do this, and then it's like, I wish I could just go get drunk. I wish I could just, give up, but that doesn't make anything better.
Right.
So I would say, if anything, like, give me more things that I can, like, give me more challenges, give me more things that I can put myself towards, put me through whatever I got to go through, because it's always been worth it, and things get 10 times better every single time.
I love that. I always say when it comes to Legos, what's the best part of Legos? Getting the Lego set, building the Legos, and then playing with it is playing with the Starship Ender. What's the Star Wars thing? I know they got
Millennium
Lego.
Falcon.
Is playing with the
Yeah.
Millennium
I think it's Millennium. No,
Falcon,
Millennium.
whatever. You get my point.
Han Solo. Yeah.
Is it funner to build it and then play with it afterwards? Or is the whole fun to pour out all the pieces and start constructing? The fun part, as far as I'm concerned, is the constructing. It's the putting it together. Matter of fact, playing with the actual Lego set sucks because if you bump it wrong, you got to put them back together. So what do people do when they buy these Lego sets and they bank something? They literally just put it up on their shelves
For everybody
and
to
then
see.
they go buy another one and then they start building that one. So the fact of the matter is, I like what you were saying because basically you're kind of saying like, hey, the challenge and the struggle is the fun part.
That's the dream. That's the dream. Yeah,
Yeah.
the challenge and the struggle is the dream.
If you've accomplished every goal and you're just sitting in your backyard
like-
next to a swimming pool, then what?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
What's next?
the fact is, challenges and struggles is what keeps, I think human nature is to be challenged and to go through struggles.
100%.
If we're struggling, it's weird to think of it like this, but like the fact of the matter is if we're struggling, we're kind of enjoying ourselves.
Yeah.
And think about it, like when people have a weekend, I do this garbage all the time. If I have a free weekend, I could literally sit home and do nothing, but I choose to cause problems. This last weekend, I went ice fishing. Let me tell you a little bit about ice fishing.
Cold.
You're dragging a sled out in the middle of nowhere. Then you got to set up a tent. Then you sit in that freezing tent. I didn't catch any fish on this trip. It was ridiculous. And then you got to load everything back up and drag it back to the truck. And my wife, we're tired. We're exhausted on the way home. And I said, babe, I'm glad we did that. And she's like, you really? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is, what would I have been doing otherwise? And we see that with people all the time. People all the time, Memorial Day, Labor Day, what do? They don't sit at home. They create problems for themselves in recreation and fun things. So the fact of the matter is,
Hanging out.
like, your problems, your goals, your challenges, it's what keeps us healthy. It's what keeps us strong. It's what keeps us normal. So I'm very glad, Luke, that you were able to come on, talk to us about your challenges, your struggles, where you're currently at, and where you're going, and where you're going real quick. Do you have any spiritual goals? I know I'm trying to wrap this thing up, but I still got a lot of questions for Luke. But what are some spiritual goals you have?
Well, I mean, just, continue to push forward in life in general. I mean, just continue to try to do the right thing and continue to do what needs to be done, if that makes any sense.
Let me ask you this. Are you 100% content with your relationship with your Creator?
Yes,
Yeah.
but no, meaning like it's a lifelong thing that I'm always going to be looking to achieve and move forward with. But I would say comparatively where I was at yesterday or a few years ago or whatever, like as long as I'm continuing that growth and continuing to go upwards, yes, I am content with where I'm at.
Is there any knowledge about your Creator that would it be, maybe I'm thinking about this wrong, would there be any knowledge concerning your Creator that you would want to know, that you don't currently know?
I mean, no. I trust in it 100%, and I trust in him 1,000 with everything I got. And so anything I don't know right now that I need to know, I will find out. You know what I mean? And anything that I don't need to know, I won't need to know. I feel like God reveals himself a lot if you pay attention. So
If God reveals himself, if you pay attention. And for me, I think I'm a little bit more greedy, where I'm always like, I want to know more. I want to know more. I want to know
nothing
more.
wrong with wanting to know more and pushing yourself.
I'm the type of guy that looks up into the skies and it's like, how'd you create all that, God? Tell me more. I want to know more. So for me, like, understanding spirituality is a journey where it's like, it never ends because there's always, it turns into this like, the more you know, the more questions you have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
So basically, when it comes to spirituality, and my whole point is just basically saying, like, there's always, and you hit this, like, you hit it differently than I would have thought, but like, you're saying you're 100% content knowing that there's going to be more to learn in the future.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I have my questions, like, why couldn't, like, we have just woke up today and, like, coronavirus be over or whatever, like different things like that, or like, how did, like, I don't know, how'd you come up with, like, math? How'd you come up with this? Why is this the way this is, and, like, when will it end, or what is going to happen with climate change, and just all these sorts of things. But, I also just, at the end of the day, I just trust, that it's going to be okay, and everything will be revealed in due time that you need to know.
That's everything will be revealed in due time that we need to know. So I love the fact, and we haven't talked about religion. He mentioned he was Christian, gone atheist, gone now. Do I dare ask if you're back to Christian or you're Christian? Or
I'm not
spiritual?
Christian. I would just say I'm spiritual.
So he's spiritual, and that's fine. And I come from a very strong Christian background, member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Nothing wrong with that either.
So if you hear me mentioning spiritual things, I'll often make reference back to that. But like, so there you are spiritually. When it comes to mental toughness, how do you feel, and how would you rate yourself on a mental toughness scale? And this is my thing about mental toughness. The ability to set goals and have the kind of ability to reach and achieve those goals.
I'd give myself about a 7 or an 8. Because I still have my days where, like, I just want to order a Little Caesars and, like, watch the fights and keep it simple. Yeah. But then there's, like, I mean, my life is pretty much, like, if I'm not, like, at the gym or, like, at work or, like, working towards that, I'm meal prepping, or I'm, like,
what's up, chow?
Trying to clean, or I'm trying to, like, do my laundry or whatever. I mean, it's always work, work, work. I barely got time for anybody or anything else.
Right. So we talked about where you're at spiritually. We also talked about where you're at mentally. My next one, and if you don't mind, Luke, I'm going to give you a rating since you're kind of at my gym, and I see what you do around the gym. I'm going to give him a rating of physical strength, a rating of physical strength on a scale of 1 to 10. Based on what I said earlier, the ability to set goals and have the physical strength to go and accomplish those goals. Okay? If I had to guess with Luke, and I were to give him a rating, and I'm his teacher, and I'm going to write down on a paper, send it home to his mom, I would give Luke a 9. That's pretty darn good.
It's great.
10 being perfect. 9 basically to me is, I don't think there's a goal you would set that you physically could not achieve. Does that make sense?
Agreeable.
No excuses. Like, when it comes to getting up and doing things, no excuses. You have the ability to and at 300 pounds, I couldn't give you that score.
No.
But now here at 210, now does he have a ripping six-pack? No. But here's the thing. He outran a lot of guys in our obstacle course who did have a six-pack.
So yeah.
So who cares about six-packs? So it's not about body fat percentage, it's not about bench presses, it's about your body being able to keep up with everything that you do. Yeah. Then lastly, financial. And I'll let you rate yourself financial. Financially, where do you think you're at? What do you think you can improve on? And what are some, we talked about you getting the certificate to do, what was the term again?
Substance use disorders.
So to me, that'd be a financial goal. So on your ability to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, like you're taking care of it, but financially, do you have the means to start chopping away at taking those classes, passing those classes, and then tackling that goal?
I mean, I have the physical means and, like, the determination to do it, but truth be told, I don't really know where I'm going to get the money from,
Okay.
Or how I'm going to go about doing that.
Yeah.
But it is something I want to do.
So we see that there's a financial struggle right there.
Yep.
And we could have done a whole podcast on financial struggles and how to spend less and make more, this, that, and the other. But so we see the goal is to get the certificate. The challenge is to save up earn, spend less, do whatever it takes to get that certificate. But then you also got to take the classes and pass the classes.
Yeah. 100%.
So, man, here's the thing. I'm super glad we did this interview. Thank you, Luke, for coming on. If there's any questions you guys have, I'd love to have Luke on again and see where he's at. Like, so his physical fitness is on par. His mental toughness is on par. His spiritual growth is very adequate. So like everything's great here. I feel like I'd like to have you on again and see where you're at as far as either saving up money for that certificate or what you've done, where you're going, how we're accomplishing it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we don't have any date set or anything, but I would say just in the next month or two.
Yeah.
Let's have you back on, and it could just be as simple as like, hey, I've saved up $500. Does that make sense? And that $500 is set aside, and it's going to go to those classes. It could be something as far as like, hey, I was able to get this promotion, or I was able to do this and spend less money to get that ball rolling. So let's retackle this question here in a couple months. And with that being said, that's pretty much going to wrap it up. But I do want to tell John Satini, he made this thing. Look at this table.
Beautiful table.
He made this thing.
Very nice.
So thank you, John. He makes them. If you have any questions on how you can get yourself something like this, leave a comment. I can share John's information with you. Here at the gym, we call him Leo. He's one of those guys who got like 10 names, but whatever. But yeah, if you guys want a table like this, I freaking love this thing. I don't regret buying it off him at all. Matter of fact, I even told him, I'm like, hey, I might want a kitchen table like this one of these days. But with that being said, thank you, John. Thank you, Luke. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you have any ideas, opinions on how Luke could go about getting, say the certificate again. There's no way I can remember.
Substance use disorder, or a SUDSI is what some
SUDSI.
people
So
call
if you have any information on SUDSI, classes, places you can take those classes, feel free, comment, and we'll get this information over to Luke here. Luke, thank you. Great interview.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks for tuning in. Vice City Gym Talk, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye.